Good morning. It is Monday, February 27th at 10 a.m. in Los Angeles, California. It's a bit cloudy and rainy. It's that season. But because of Zoom, we get to be here with Dom Magwili. Is that the right way to pronounce it? Let me make
That's
sure
pretty
first.
good.
Oh,
I've been
excellent.
called
Okay.
McGuire, so
Oh,
Magwillies. You're even in the ballpark. Thank you
I
very
didn't
much.
I didn't think of you as Irish, but hey, you never know, right?
But there you go. You never know.
Well, welcome. Thank you so much for doing this. It's great to have you on. I've sort of known you from, East West and all the Asian acting circles for many years. Actually, I haven't had a chance to have a sit down with a long conversation like this, so this is kind of nice. So thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay. I think I'm going to jump right in. I always like to start a little bit about getting to know someone, getting to know a little bit about their background, how they got started in the arts. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you got into acting, arts, writing, and so forth?
The writing started early.
Okay.
Uh, I, 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 I guess I watched a lot of TV. I'm a child of television, and the TV programming that I saw was like Hopalong Cassidy and Captain Kangaroo and like that.
Hmm.
And I have this distinct memory of Mrs. Betancourt. She was like second grade teacher. In those days, I went to Ben Franklin Grammar School. In those days, they had 9 o'clockers and 10 o'clockers. I was a 9 o'clock. I was a 10 o'clocker, which
Hmm.
meant they sort of staggered students. And but I was invited by Mrs. Betancourt to come to school at 9 o'clock. And what I would do with that hour is she let me write stories.
Hmm.
And so I did. I mostly copied stories I saw on TV, but it just encouraged me to write. So I was always writing.
Oh, that's great. That's really great.
Um, the acting stuff came. I was I was at the University of San Francisco, and my
Hmm.
my aspirations at that point was I was going to be a speech teacher, debate coach, maybe get my law degree.
Hmm.
But I was very enamored with my high school. St. Joseph's High School was like 300 all boys, and I was very much involved in St. Joseph's. So I was going to go back there to teach. And in the junior year of my college career, I was competing in Redlands in a debate contest.
Hmm.
I remember I have this distinct memory of coming up to speak. I'm holding this index card in my hand, and I felt like I had topped out.
Oh.
I'd been competing in high school. I was competing up until then in college, and I just felt like I'd been doing it too much.
Hmm.
So I decided I would take a break, and the drama department office was right next door to the speech club office. So I said I'll just take a semester and do whatever needs to be done over there. And so, actors or productions always need volunteers to help build stuff and to be background. And I ended up building Desdemona's bed
Mm.
and
Okay.
being I think I had three characters in Othello, and but the first character I did okay. The second character, not so good. I was a messenger, and I came in with a lit torch, and I
Hmm.
said to the leaders of Verona that Othello is coming. But I came out there and I forgot my words, and I was and a dear friend of mine who was one of the great men of Verona said, "You know what he's saying? He's saying that Othello's coming." And they all went, "Ah!" And I went, "Yeah, that's right."
That's
and
great.
and
That's great.
um, he said, "Well, that was fun." And then I got cast for the Bandit and Rashomon.
Oh, okay.
And that it's great to be a lead. And I enjoyed it in ways that are it's hard to describe. I mean, because you have performed, you sort of understand this. There is this thrill of performance. Some part of it is the reaction of the audience. Some part of it is being able to express yourself. But I really liked it.
Yeah.
And so for that brief period of time, my college career on stage was I started in the chorus, I got some leads, and then I ended up in the chorus again. But during that time, up until then, I was convinced I was going to be a speech teacher and debate coach.
Okay.
There was no that was it. That was my life trajectory. But now I was auditioning for shows. I was hanging out with the actors who were so cool. The debate people always wore shirts and ties and suits and like that, which I did. I wore the uniform. But it wasn't until I got into working on stage I started wearing jeans. Like, and so by the time I reached my senior year, I was ambivalent about teaching at my high school. One, because I had already been doing it. I sort of just volunteered at St. Joseph's to be a debate coach anyway, and was kind of running a study hall. So I had already sort of fulfilled that I checked that box. And so what was I going to do? Law school? Well, yeah, I could do that. But then I had an opportunity to get a scholarship for the summer program at the American Conservatory Theater, their summer training program.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
And I the person who offered it to me, I asked her, can I take the weekend to think about it? Because this was going to be a life choice. This is not do you want this was not like a job change. This was like life choice kind of thing. So I talked to my friends and they said law school is always going to be around. This scholarship may not be. So they urged me to take the summer program, and I did, and I dug it.
That's
and
great.
It just kept going. So I did 2.5 years
Oh, excellent.
at ACT,
Uh-huh.
which would there was a time when ACT offered an MFA in acting or performance. I don't think they do that now, but I realized I could have gotten an MFA. Well, it justified that period of time because the training was kind of the same thing. But 2.5 years in a training program on the stages of the American Conservatory Theater, it gives you a whole perspective of what you think stage acting is about, what acting is in general. It gives you the sense of a big stage. Ming, I don't know. Do you remember the old East West Players on Santa Monica Boulevard? Did you ever see that?
I think it was a very, very long time ago. Yeah, that was a long time ago.
It was a architect's warehouse, and a converted architect's warehouse, and they had dance classes there. Now I had dance classes at ACT too, but they used like your regular like rehearsal hall. And they'd say, well, across the floor, and you take 1, 2, 3, 4 steps to get to the other side. At East West, it was a very small 99-seat theater space, and people like me and Michael Paul Chan, we take 2 strides and we're already on the other side. It's real small.
All right. Yeah.
And I worked on the Geary stage, and I started looking. I could look up to like 3 balconies. So ACT had left an imprint on me as an actor, and I was thinking stage. But then when I so-called graduated, I went down to Los Angeles to see what it was like. I was planning 2 years in LA, then I would go to New York because I'm a stage actor. That's where you go. However, I got introduced to the East West Players Theater, and I met my wife.
Oh, okay.
Uh, I started writing again. I started writing plays
Hmm.
that were getting produced. I
That's
wrote
great.
I
Yeah.
well, I write big cast shows because I
Hmm.
wanted to be in my shows.
Hmm.
Um, it was a way of getting cast. It was a an employment opportunity.
There you go. It's
Yeah. So I started writing stage plays, and I ended up directing some of them, and then I started writing screenplays,
hmm
and I started directing some of those. So it just sort of evolved. So most of my so-called artistic evolution happened not only at East West Players but also in Los Angeles.
That's really great. That's really great. It's always great to know how people get started, because there's a lot of people getting started out there, and some people I'm sure can relate. So today,
Mm.
you are an actor, you're a director, you are a writer, audiobook narrator.
Mm.
Have I missed anything in terms
Oh
of the hats that
gosh,
you wear?
uh, probably big, but I can't think of it. But here in Los Angeles, because you don't work a lot, at least I don't work a lot, you become a hyphenated person
Of
out
course,
of
yes.
necessity.
Uh-huh.
And if you are impatient, which I was, then you try to get something going.
Hmm.
So now So I was connected with East West Players. I ended up teaching there.
Okay.
I was connected with East West Players, so I ended up directing there. They needed a me to write what they called a foreign language tour. They found they could get a grant
Hmm.
if you wrote some sort of bilingual show, and so I ended up writing and doing some kind of quasi production work on it.
Hmm.
All that hyphenation is mostly so that you would stay in the business and you would be working theatrically.
Hmm.
It's also probably working in film.
Hmm.
Again, you just you sort of you do it to stay close to the industry, but you
Hmm.
also do it for the experience because
Hmm.
you don't know
Right.
what's going on there. And I'm thinking I did like 2 years working as, at the very least, I was like a line producer,
Hmm.
associate producer, uh, director
Hmm.
for these low budget films, and mostly, if I wasn't directing, I did everything that did not involve a camera. I had no skill. I have no understanding. I don't do that. So I ended up. I'm not a costuming person, but I can get army military fatigues. I can do that.
It's the life
Or
of an entrepreneur, right? You got to do everything,
well,
basically.
yeah. Well, because you don't have a lot of money, and at
Yeah.
the level that I was producing film, it was one step above self production.
Right.
So we would promise actors, I can promise you, we'll feed you one meal
Hmm.
and something for your reel.
Right. Right. Right.
That's it. And
Yeah.
some people, a lot of actors, no, they can't go there, but a lot of actors could, or a lot
Hmm.
of non actors who just are entranced by the business could make that
Sure. Yeah.
accommodation. So, uh, so I worked as a producer on that, or whatever. I would cast, or I would run casting sessions and send the tape to the director so that they could look at them.
Right.
Duties as required
I
was
understand.
mostly it. Yeah, yeah.
L- Let me ask real quick about your teaching. So you teach right now at East West Players.
Yep.
Do you teach scene study, or what's the area? And then do
It's
you have
it,
an approach for actors, or a way you think actors should train? Let's ask that question.
uh, I am like a product of all my teachers.
Hmm.
The thrust of what I learned from a teacher, and his name is Daryl Hickman, who was a
Hmm.
child star, but he had a point of view about the work and particular techniques that I use. It's all like based on Stanislavski,
Okay.
but Daryl had worked with Sandy Meisner, and he'd
Hmm.
also worked with Lee Strasberg,
Hmm.
and he'd studied. he'd studied Stanislavski. So they're like this mashup of various points of views and technique. And then, I mean, I'm grabbing stuff from ACT. I'm
Hmm.
grabbing stuff from the stuff I learned from Mako,
Okay.
the actor. Um,
So, well, let's ask this. Any advice you have for um, actors in terms of the best way to approach their acting? And I know there's no best, and but I kind of found that after going through lots of classes and all that stuff, you have to come to your own approach. And but there are certain things that at least work best for me. And any thoughts on what might work best for other actors or other, actors learning the trade, if you will?
um, I'm trying to get to the basic one. I think you have to enjoy what you do.
Hmm.
I think that's part of the job description. You have to enjoy it because our work as actors is there's a lot of disrespect and frustration
Yes. Hmm.
and a lot of periods of non-work.
Hmm.
But if you enjoy, if just the notion of it is something that pleasures you, it feeds your soul. It feeds your soul in a way that you can have a very bad experience
Hmm.
working with a theater company that abuses you, being disrespected. The people turn their backs on you, and yet you will go to the next audition. You will go back to it.
Yeah.
It speaks of that the business of acting affects you in some very personal way that you can withstand all these disappointments and still go to your next audition.
Okay.
In our classes, we use the phrase before there was the business, there was you.
Oh, okay.
And I remember hearing this actress, oh, we have enough actors. We do, we have
Oh.
enough actors. And I said, well, who's talking here? Is it a producer or a teacher who's tired of looking at acting students? Who's talking here?
Mm, yeah.
For the acting student, that's not your problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your problem is to be the best actor you can be. Now, if you get cast and if they want you or don't want you, that's their stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I have encountered actors who are very bitter
Yes.
about
Hmm.
dreams unfulfilled.
Hmm.
They look at I was a member of AFTRA for 5 years and I never got a job.
Hmm.
And I mean, I get it. I don't think AFTRA's job is to get you jobs,
Hmm.
but you can hear the disappointment in their voices, the uh, sound of somebody whose dreams were smashed by the reality of the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and
So you
so,
gotta love it, right? You gotta love it,
uh,
and you gotta.
well, you should because otherwise it'll be really painful,
Yeah.
and you walk away with this very personal vendetta
Yeah.
about the business that I've encountered.
I've
Uh,
seen that. I've seen that too. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, um, I have nothing for it. They are of the mind that something should have happened that did not happen, which is where we came up with the phrase before there was the business, there was you. I
That's a
mean,
great phrase. I like that. I really like
well,
that.
some people have become really popular actors and then they become nuns.
Yeah.
There's this famous actress who worked opposite Elvis, and soon after that, she went into the convent. I mean, what can I
Wow.
tell you? You
Yeah.
know, it's like,
That's a different route. Okay.
um,
Well, I have to say one of the great things about you is that you wear many hats, and so I think not only does it keep you going, but it probably inspires you and gives you many options, and so you have that point of view. I do want to jump into your latest book because
yeah,
when I want to make sure we cover that before we run out of time. So tell us about your latest book. I mean, it was years in the making, and you've written
yes, it
many,
was.
but the one that you're why don't you talk about it?
Well, the book that is published, you can get at Amazon. It's called The Infernal Promise. And yeah, years in the making. I was doing a show. I was doing Little Shop of Horrors at the East West Players Theater. I was playing Mr. Mushnick, and I get killed about three-quarters of the way through the musical,
Hmm.
which meant I had this time in my hands. So while waiting for the curtain call, I was doing research on how to write a fantasy novel,
Hmm.
and found it very interesting. And at some point, particularly after the show closed, I decided I'd give it a shot.
Hmm.
And I kept writing. I up until this time, I'd been writing mostly screenplays, and I can write a screenplay. I can write it fast. I
Hmm.
was used to writing it. Um, Low budget action adventure, sure, I can write that.
Hmm.
Uh, in the month of October, I remember I had to knock out two.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and so the shift in gears to novel writing is significant. To me, screenwriting is a quick kind of style. Novel writing can take forever. And
Well, it's a lot of pages, right? So.
well, depending on what you're writing.
Hmm.
J.K. Rowling wrote the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Was it the Sorcerer? Her first book
Hmm.
was, say, like a half inch or a quarter of an inch thick.
Hmm.
And as she wrote her series, they got progressively larger, so that the final book was maybe like 3 inches thick.
Wow. Okay.
It sort of followed the trajectory of her audience. They started
Hmm.
as like 10 or 11. And as they grew up older, it's like she also addressed subject matter that a 13, 14-year-old would get,
Hmm.
14, 15, 16-year-old would get. So she wrote appropriately. Um, I don't know. The book I wrote was whatever was inside of me. And so
Okay.
I sort of like wrote it, and then I finished it. And they said, I found somebody who would publish it. And they did. And I got a hard copy. And I said, oh my God, this is thick. Holy smokes. And I'm paging through, and it's like over 600 pages. And I said, it was not my intention to write a 600-page book.
All right.
I just sort of wrote it, and there it is. So I'm sorry. It is what it
Well,
is,
tell you
no matter
what,
what
give
it
us
is.
a quick how about like a short synopsis or a summary, a log line for your book.
Well, the thumbnail is Seven Samurai meets the Lord of the Rings in Narnia.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Okay, so the more of a description is, there is this wagon train of Asian American immigrants making their way west towards San Francisco. And the small wagon train is threatened not only by a dust storm, but bandits. So they hide out in this down in this ravine into a cavern that is actually a tunnel. And they go through that. And when they come out to a world that has two suns,
Hmm.
5 moons, and where animals talk like people.
Mm. Okay.
It is if there is a era, it is an era of shields and swords and crossbows and castles.
Which we all love. Yeah.
Oh, hey, Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings.
I always wanted to do one of those on camera,
Yeah,
you know.
no, and these things are actually doable in today's market and in today's the mood of today. I think that's more true than not, and you hope to get a piece of it while it's still pardon me, while it is still present. But so they go through their adventures, and
Hmm.
so it is a story. There's about 12 characters. There is a wagon train. This happens about 1867, and there are two Chinese brothers, two Japanese brothers, a Filipino gambler,
Hmm.
three nuns, three assassins posing as nuns, this defrocked priest and his manservant, and these two really old Chinese miners.
Okay.
They end up in this world, and when they start going through their adventures, they discover some things. Well, one is that they're immortal. I mean, they
Hmm.
die and they come back to life again, which
It's always cool.
yeah, and those who are sick get well, those who are old get young.
Wow. Okay.
And so like the old miners and the old priest and his manservant, they're all young men now. This is
Wow.
a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
The nun, the third nun, is dying from poison, and she is healthy again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like uh, there is a method to this madness, that
Mm-hmm.
they were deliberately brought to this world to fight against these invaders from far away, from a different galaxy. And so
Mm.
they had been brought to this world to help the inhabitants, the locals, fight back. And
The seven samurai element.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so in repayment for that, they, as long as they don't have relationships with the locals, they will live forever. They will always stay young. That's it. And when the story ends, they have an opportunity to go or stay. And what's interesting is that several of them want to go back. That this world, you're going to get old again. Says, yeah, but this isn't my home.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of others, there's nothing for them in this world. They really want to go back,
Right. Right.
but in the end, they have an opportunity to go back,
It's an
and
interesting choice. Interesting choice. Yeah.
they make a choice to continue their adventures.
That's great.
Yeah,
Okay, that's great. That's available on Amazon, right?
it is.
Okay. I'm going to jump real quick. We only have about 5 minutes left, believe it or not.
Oh,
So you are jumping into the world of audiobook narration. Is that correct?
yes, it
All right.
is.
So quick question. How did you prepare for it? And then is there a certain type of audiobook or that you think you're best for or that you're looking to do?
The audiobook arsenal that I'm audiobook training that I'm getting is the audiobook adventurers that is founded by Elise Arsenault.
Okay.
And I got into it because of Jennifer Aquino.
Right. And she's doing
Uh,
great. And Jennifer is a friend of
she is
ours.
she is like on fire.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
We all have. I mean, we've known her a very long time. She's been very, very good, but she jumped into audiobook narration, and she's gigantic.
Yeah. That's great.
In
Yeah.
well, I have aspirations too. I really enjoy it, but my first aspiration really is to make an audiobook narration of the novel I've written.
Of course, yeah, that would be great. That would really
Well,
be,
I'm
and
in the midst of
you
that
should, right?
now.
You should, right?
I
Of
mean,
course.
yeah, it's, but it's not for sissies. That's all I can tell you, because you've got to it the business of being able to sustain like a chapter. Some of these chapters are only like 3-4 pages. Cool, I can do that.
Right.
But some of these pages are like 7 to 10 pages.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not much left after the 10th page. Yeah, suddenly it moves from being a sprint to a marathon. And if and I am there are these audiobook narrators that can do a novel by George R. R. Martin, and they can do it in a short period of time, and I'm just amazed that they're able to pull that off.
So
Physically,
how long does it take, for example, for you to do like 10 pages? An hour, 2 hours?
uh, for with prep,
Ah, okay. That's a
and
fair amount. Yeah.
appreciate that this is also something I've written, so I'm familiar with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
To take to you get something for that J.R.R. Tolkien has written, that's a different animal, because
Well,
the
because
prep
you have
isn't
to, yeah, a lot of prep.
there's language, there's just to figure out what's going on in the story. It is recommended you read the book before you read the book.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
And so like there's this tricky ending at the end, like, no, I didn't know that. Oh geez. So um
Okay, okay, that's interesting. Definitely a lot of work. So, unfortunately, we're gonna run out of time really soon. We only have a couple minutes, so I want to make sure that people know how to find out more about you. So, how do you, what, do you have a website? What's your website, please?
Website is www.dmagwili.com. That's DMAGWILI.com.
And do you have any other place that people should look for you, like Facebook, Instagram, any of the social media, or and of course your book on Amazon?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm on Facebook. That's about as high as my technology will go. LinkedIn and Facebook. I can't spell TikTok. I don't know how to do that. I don't understand Instagram. I am trying to.
It's
Um,
okay. You know, it's I
and
can't say it's a must do. Let's put it that way.
well,
So
when do they find the time to get into all that social media? I'm too busy living a life. Holy smokes.
I know it's a lot of time too. But the world's changing. I don't know if they're as big as they used to be. So okay, that's great. And then of course you're teaching at East West Players. So if they're students, they can go to you and see you at East West Players, correct?
Yes. If you go to the East West Players website for training, we're starting up our second session, acting two, um, in March, I think 13th and 15th. We do an in-person class and we do an online class.
Okay, and I'll do a little plug for your website. I took a look at it. Dom is great. Unlike me, I'm not very good at keeping it updated, but you have a little page with recent events and things you're about to do, I think. So
Yeah.
that's another way to keep updated with your stuff. Um, we're gonna run out of time, but thank you very much. That was really informative. I wish you luck on everything. I'm gonna, watch out your stuff. I follow you on Facebook, of course. And so yeah, thank you very much. Very much appreciate having you on.
Ming, thanks a lot for the invitation. Thanks a lot for the time.
Of course. Have a great day. Bye.
You too. Bye bye.